You're all looking lovely, by the way. Good afternoon. Let me start first by extending heartfelt congratulations to our graduates, their families, and well-wishers. You, our graduates, have worked incredibly hard to reach this point and should be proud of your wonderful achievements. I would also like to acknowledge all the faculty and administrators who have contributed to the success of this graduating class. My name is Femi Cadmus, and I'm a professor of law and the law librarian at Yale University. It is wonderful and exciting to be back. This will be my second time in Coventry since I graduated with an LLM in law and development 36 years ago, which must mean that I must be as ancient as the hills, or I graduated at the age of 12. I arrived at the University of Warwick tagging along with my older sister, Bumi Biu, who was starting her doctorate at Warwick. Coming to Warwick was a highly calculated and financially prudent decision since I could crash with my sister and not have to worry about room and board and food. Now, make no mistake, it was not all about the money. I had researched and investigated the University of Warwick and had become truly fascinated with all that Warwick had to offer and desperately wanted to attend this great institution. I was born in New York City, where my father, Dejo Kediji, studied at Columbia University, and my mother, Remio Kediji, worked at the Nigerian Consular Office. Our family headed home to Lagos, Nigeria, after my father completed his doctorate. And I grew up on the campus of the University of Lagos in Nigeria. My father was then a professor of sociology and anthropology. Even so, I was not particularly exposed to diverse global perspectives, like you've seen today. That changed quickly when I arrived at the University of Warwick and sat in a classroom, embedded with students from different parts of the world. I also quickly learned that my opinions and perspectives were genuinely sought by my professors. It was not enough to be an eager recipient of the intellectual knowledge, spellbound by the expositions of the law, jotting down furiously every word that came out of their mouths, just as I had done back in law school in Nigeria. No. I was called upon in class, and I froze. Soliciting my opinion, to me, was scary, and I struggled badly. I do remember the kindness of faculty, particularly Professor Sol Pichioto, who was wonderful and generous with advice and encouragement. Thankfully, by the time I graduated, my ability to think critically, engage actively, and speak confidently had grown and was developing nicely. I must say this experience has made me a more empathetic and encouraging professor. After my LLB degree, I discovered that while I loved researching and studying the law, the practice of law was just not my cup of tea. I disliked litigation, which was my first exposure to law practice. To be perfectly honest, the LLM degree at Warwick was for me an intellectually stimulating pause that would give me time to mull over what I wanted to be when I grew up. I'll stop here to encourage anyone present here today who feels somewhat directionless and unsure of next steps. That's perfectly okay. Not everyone has life all carefully planned out, and even if you think you do, be prepared for surprises. Yes, surprises. Looking back to my 20-something-year-old self, I would not have imagined that I would become a professor at Yale University, a prestigious Ivy League institution, teaching at the intersection of law and technology. And in addition, enjoying the unparalleled daily intellectual stimulation of leading the Lillian Goldman Law Library at Yale Law School. I would never have even imagined that such a combination existed, professor and law librarian, contributing to the public good through projects such as Law Archive, a free legal scholarship repository, and the global online access to legal information that make legal information freely available in under-resourced communities all over the world. Amazingly, I had found my life's calling, incorporating my love for the law and research. I encourage you to be open to unlimited and unlikely possibilities. Life, you probably know by now, or will soon discover, is not always neatly laid out in a linear fashion. Enjoy the serendipitous and exciting journey of discovery. You never know where you'll land, but I can assure you that it will be great and most fulfilling. I must put in a word about the power of networking, which you must undoubtedly have heard about so many times. Your Warwick alumni network is extensive. I have personally met many alumni in the United States, some who wanted contacts or advice. Be sure to tap into this great resource. Finally, I am personally honored to extend to you a warm welcome to the Warwick alumni community. Welcome. Congratulations again. Wishing you much success and fulfillment in your next adventure.